Good morning and good afternoon to all our attendees. I'm Dr. Windsor Holden, Head of Forecasting and Consultancy at Juniper Research, and I will be moderating our webinar session on exploring mobility as a service, the new era of urban mobility. The webinar will last around 40 minutes or so, and we'll then have some time for a Q&A session. You can drop your questions during the webinar into the chat box. If we are unable to answer all your questions, we will get in touch with you once the webinar is over to share more information. And I'd also like to add that a download of the recording will also be made available for you at a later stage. If you've already downloaded the white paper, you can download it from Moovel's homepage or Juniper's white paper downloads page. We provide the links to these pages at the end of this slide deck. Now I'd like to introduce our two presenters for today. First of all, Tony Todd. Tony is the Chief Business Development Officer for Moovel North America. Tony leads the account management, marketing and business development teams at Moovel. Tony's helped onboard more than 16 transit agencies on Moovel's platform from Chicago to Los Angeles and many cities in between. So it's a pleasure to have you on board today, Tony, and welcome. And we've also got Nitin Bas, who is the Head of Research at Juniper. Nitin's responsible for leading Juniper's analyst team and developing our annual as well as long-term research plan and product strategies. He's also one of the authors of this white paper. So welcome, Nitin. Now, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the agenda for today, as well as a quick introduction to this wonderful publication put together by Moovel and Juniper. The white paper explains the concept of MaaS and demonstrates how it's going to disrupt the smart city landscape, delivering a successful multimodal mobility strategy covering both transport and payments. It also clarifies any technical or business challenges posed by MaaS and the steps required from stakeholders ranging from transport, automobile, insurance and healthcare to the energy sectors to address any issues that result. We also provide a blueprint for a successful MaaS deployment, identifying the different service layers and impact across multiple transport business areas. In addition to providing recommendations to all stakeholders and a best practice guide for the stakeholders, the white paper also demonstrates time and cost savings enabled by MaaS for citizens and businesses. So Nitin and Tony will discuss this further, as you can see from the discussion points included in this slide. So if you've got any questions regarding this, please feel free to drop them into the chat box during the session. Now it's over to Nitin to provide us with some insights into the white paper and what MaaS means for stakeholders.
Thank you, Windsor. And hello to everyone. So we will start this part of the webinar with defining what MaaS essentially means. Now, Juniper and Moovel define MaaS as urban transport solutions that are integrated into a single platform by which users can determine the best route and price across several end-to-end travel services and modes. And that's all completely based on real-time data such as traffic conditions, time of the day, and user demand. Now, MaaS is also quite commonly referred to as transportation as a service and also mobility on demand. Now, for the customer, MaaS will be delivered or MaaS will be offered to them in the form of an app, a simple app, which is accessible at any time across many connected devices, so not just restricted to your smartphone, but also available on a tablet device or on your smartwatch, and many more connected devices. Now, based on the foundation of open data, the concept of MaaS is quite understandably gaining popularity as a method of increasing public transport ridership and also improving the traffic on the road, and this thereby then enhance the quality of life for citizens. So one could argue that while MaaS is not a new concept, it is rather an evolution of customers' mobility requirements and the different pricing models. So what does MaaS deliver? So MaaS kind of improves the user experience and convenience by offering a single account or a single app to provide different mobility services, ranging ranging from public transport to rental or ride-sharing services, and also self-driving cars. So if implemented correctly, MaaS will deliver a number of advantages for policymakers, and not just policymakers, but also for transportation providers, operations providers, infrastructure providers, logistics management companies, and also the consumers. To the right in the slide, we have highlighted some of the primary advantages that MaaS will enable, and we discuss this further in our white paper. So please feel free to download the full report. Now moving on to the next slide quickly here. So this chart here highlights the different stakeholders and how a MaaS ecosystem collaboration is expected in the future. Each stakeholder, as shown here, will have an equally important part to play in the overall development of the ecosystem. MaaS involves the use of public transport in different ways. Therefore, it's important that all these stakeholders are in some sort of mutual agreement while defining policies and future business models. So it is almost entirely dependent on legislation to ensure that this model, or MaaS, succeeds. Legislation both in permitting certain business models or pricing models and restricting certain business models indeed has the ability to shape the nature of MaaS. So it is quite possible that the roles of these stakeholders included here, including the likes of policymakers, transport authorities, payment providers, ticketing providers, and others will continue to evolve and take different roles as we complete the transition period towards MaaS. Now, let's just discuss a bit about the open data approach that's quite critical in delivering MaaS. So first pioneered by cities such as London, the concept of open data is emerging as a key strategy for the so-called smart cities across the globe. In this case, open data refers to city-level performance data, which can then be openly released for public consumption and then further driving innovation. So we highlight some of the key benefits of open data standards in our white paper, but we're just going to touch upon some of the major ones that include equal access to affordable and innovative performance and operational data, using the value of real-time data and analytics to deliver an improved user experience. There's potential to unlock new revenue streams and deliver further innovation and value to the customer. So there's plenty more advantages that open data standards will deliver. The most famous example of open data innovation is, to give you an example, is CityMapper. So the CityMapper application, which use real-time public transport and traffic information, enables citizens to determine the optimal route across the city at any given time. So in future, this concept could feasibly transfer to create a public transport system that is indeed determined by real-time demand and has the potential to become more efficient. Now, just to give a quick update on the current state of play, alongside the emergence of a vast number of new and innovative digital services, which has come together to form what has been called the sharing economy, we've seen that digital ticketing and the development of autonomous vehicles is kind of driving the development of MaaS in many cities. But it's worth noting at this point that the proliferation of MaaS will almost certainly be determined by policy and legislation. Now, MaaS is largely viewed as a European concept at present. Juniper believes that interest will undoubtedly spread across to major cities in North America and as well as Asia, where especially as ticketing and driverless vehicles begins to gain traction in these markets. Now, indeed, for these autonomous or driverless vehicles to thrive, the establishment of MaaS platforms will be critical, especially in the public sector. given that the public transport solution or the public sector will be the first one to use such a system as opposed to a private transport solution. Now, just moving on to the next slide, let us take a look at some of the drivers that's enabling MaaS. We have highlighted the key ones here, including new business and service opportunities, health management, traffic management, shared services, and the development of autonomous vehicles. We discussed stakeholder partnerships a while ago. The emergence of big data and implementation of big data and analytics, as well as the market growth in digital ticketing. So these are some of the key drivers that's driving the market. Now, consumers demand choice about how they use the transportation service, whether it be private, public, or shared, or a mix of everything. And they demand choice at the time and location convenient to them. So it's all about the consumers. They expect greater flexibility, not just the transport modes, but actually also in the pricing options that's available to them. So MaaS offers a significant opportunity for all stakeholders to change or revolutionize or basically change the travel behavior, introduce new innovative business models, and these could well include dynamic and subscription pricing for multi-modal fare systems. Now, both Moovel and Juniper believes that subscription and monthly recurring charge models will become the foundation for a MaaS service. In addition to that, MaaS also holds great prospects for the adoption of green and clean technologies. Developing a MaaS strategy will enable cities to address some of the environmental and congestion issues, and this is basically by increasing public transport adoption alongside increasing the number of shared cars amongst the public. Finally, there has been an increasing momentum to an industry interest in MaaS. We've seen players within the ecosystem collaborating with each other via partnerships. Some organizations are actively becoming instrumental in creating an interface between these stakeholders. So there's an increasing momentum amongst the stakeholders in driving MaaS forward. Now, just quickly moving to the next slide. So, in order to understand the MaaS value proposition, we have defined and mapped the different service layers. So that's what you see on the slide here. So these are the different service layers in a MaaS model explored from a customer perspective. While this is, we should point out that this is not a technical framework. It essentially demonstrates how these service layers will shape future innovations that will then further offer a frictionless experience to the customers. Now, if you just quickly look through the different service layers here, we start with the mobility network layer. So this is where the customers are able to choose their preferred mode of transport. From point A to point B, they are able to select between public, private, shared, or a combination of the three. Then we have the real-time mobility optimization layer. So this is where the customers are able to view the different travel modes. This will display the total duration for travel from point A to B. And all this information will be based on real-time information, and this will include taxi or rideshare availability, traffic conditions, any bus or train or metro delays, any other traffic disruptions. So bringing all this information together into one layer. And then we have the mobility pricing layer, where the customers are able to select their preferred payment method, payment option. And this could be based on a usage, a pay-as-you-go, or a subscription plan-based pricing model. Moving on, we have the value services layer. So this layer provides an opportunity for MaaS provider to innovate and offer some sort of related or other vertical services. For example, providing offers to nearest retail outlets, maybe a voucher code to the nearest restaurant, suggest meeting points if you're meeting a friend or someone else, and also integrate a number of other location-based services. So great opportunity for different players to innovate here. Now, finally, we have this future services layer, and this provides opportunities not just for the service providers, but also for the customers. So you could enable loyalty schemes, discounts for customers, provide them the opportunity to present them with user data-based service plans, and maybe integrate advertising and other paid-for information display. In addition, I think it is also possible to use or harness customer data to innovate future business models. You could be delivering credits and discounts for promoting continued usage by your customers. So for MaaS services to come together and to offer an end-to-end mobility service, as you all understand, there are specific logistical challenges, and we will aim to target some of the key ones here. So starting with the technology, from a technology perspective, we all know that how technology is critical in delivering a frictionless experience for MaaS users or for your customers. Now, creating a single platform on which MaaS technology can be placed is vital to the ecosystem development, and most likely this will be in the form of an app, as I mentioned earlier. So this model will speed up the initial development and enable rapid expansion into many other areas, and not just that, also let you integrate other services, especially once use cases and technologies become apparent. But from a consumer perspective, technology should not be implemented just for the sake of providing an app-based experience. There must be a clear goal of what is intended to be achieved. And especially in terms of delivering a seamless service level experience between different transport modes. Now, from a business model perspective, MaaS providers should be able to present the customer with a flexible and affordable pricing model, and that pricing model should be able to differentiate itself from existing service models, and then only you can drive customers to use MaaS services. We have, as we highlighted in our white paper, a clear identification of public versus private transport options weighed against real-time cross-modal availability, offering first and last mile transport connectivity will ultimately become the winner. Now, from a city level perspective, addressing MaaS at a city level requires your transport authorities and governments and local councils to further discuss and explore key elements, including traffic management, transport management, payment infrastructure, ticketing infrastructure, parking infrastructure. These factors are all critical in delivering a frictionless experience to the commuters. Now, finally, the importance of cybersecurity cannot be overstated. Given the fact that you are essentially collecting citizens' data, and as well as there are other critical infrastructure involved, it then becomes quite an attractive target for cyber criminals. So it is critical that identifying and addressing key cybersecurity risks and putting an efficient and effective cybersecurity strategy, which then which are affecting key layers that we discussed earlier in the MaaS ecosystem. This must be at the forefront of a player's vision. So on that, based on that, we have also highlighted some of the key strategic recommendations from our white paper here. And it is important that stakeholders and players looking to come into the MaaS sector keep this in mind while driving the development of MaaS. So most importantly, the number one recommendation from our end is that the ability to integrate data across several urban transport solution providers via stakeholder collaboration and information sharing will drive the development of MaaS initiatives in the future. So collaboration is critical. Collaboration on a public authority as well as a departmental level collaboration needs to be complemented by industry-specific partnerships, and that these partnerships will include those with technology partners, service providers, and this is what we have highlighted in this slide. In addition to this, regulation is needed to address future business models, and also the primary issue of who owns the customer. So, driven by an open data policy, unlocking ecosystems to a wide pool of developers will lead to more innovative services, but at the same time, we need to have policies in place that strictly defines who is responsible for what. Now, in addition to all that, they also need to make sure any security strategies that are being implemented as security by design. So when we say security by design, we mean that security at every single layer must be accounted for. Now, finally, stakeholders must come together to define a workable business model that suits all parties. This is very critical for MaaS to succeed. And on that note, we have investigated potential business and pricing models in the full white paper. Now, what does MaaS mean for the citizens, and what does MaaS mean for businesses? So we have estimated the benefit of MaaS proliferation and put together some interesting numbers for you. And this is on the basis that this is on the assumption that MaaS is not only is fully available in major cities, but also that the benefits resulting from MaaS, such as route and service optimization, are all delivered according to a best case scenario. Now, the best case scenario assumption here is that MaaS will have full service rollout and maximum consumer adoption in major cities, where it then enables our calculations provided in these slides. Firstly, let's quantify the MaaS experience for commuters and the general public in terms of time savings. Now, Juniper anticipates that commuters traveling by MaaS will save, on average, 37% of the baseline journey time. And this is calculated at 67 minutes per day for drivers and 61 minutes per day across all modes. Well, not unexpectedly, commuters who shift from private vehicle use to MaaS will see their average commute time fall to 34 minutes per day. And this is mainly due to congestion avoidance and high vehicle occupancy rates. Now, we all understand that some drivers will continue to own and use their cars to drive to work. So as a byproduct of MaaS enablement, their commute time is projected to fall to an average of 52 minutes per day. Now, trips that are made other than for the purposes of commuting are more often than not made when traffic conditions are not at their peak. Therefore, the congestion levels tend to be much lower. So with over 198 annual trips across the city made for the purpose of leisure, shopping, and so on, each trip via MaaS will save citizens an average of 2 minutes over the baseline. So that will realize an annual saving of close to 8 hours. Please note that this is just for the purpose of leisure and shopping. All our assumptions and methodology and sources used for these estimates are included in the white paper. So do check that out. And now, just to quantify the MaaS experience for businesses, what impact it will have on productivity. So if one were to assume that all time saved was used for the purpose of business activity, the result would be an increase of 2.2 trillion in business productivity, and that's a global figure. But employees are unlikely to devote all this time to work activity. After all, there is life beyond work. So an estimation that 33% of the recovered time is only used for business productivity. That would then mean that we will generate an additional 733 billion globally. And that's purely from the implementation of MaaS. Now, I think that's from my side. Let me now hand over to Tony, who will take you through Moovel's leading service offerings in this space and how Moovel prepare for the future of mobility, which is MaaS.
Well, thank you, Nitin, and thank you all for joining us here today. I think on behalf of the 250 Moovel employees around the world, it's my pleasure to be able to present to you all years of fantastic work and research that we've been doing that have really led to this moment and this white paper that we've created at Juniper. I would obviously encourage all of you who have not already downloaded the white paper to please do so. Share it with your colleagues and friends and interested parties in MaaS and join us in the conversation. I'm going to speak with you today about our journey here at Moovel in MaaS and mobility and share some of our learnings in launching the world's first full MaaS platforms and apps and share some information with you about Moovel. So we are a wholly owned subsidiary of Daimler AG, the inventor of the automobile, and it's our mission to partner with cities and particularly public transit operators to create more efficient and smarter cities by embracing and creating MaaS with them. Moovel has a lot of startup DNA in our history and is really a combination of several teams' efforts over many years. And these teams were brought together to solve what is, in our opinion, the most challenging mobility problem of our times. And that question is, how do we build a technology platform that can provide a seamless user experience to people moving around their cities that they want to have flexibility in their commuting decisions, and then through one application on their phone, look, book, and pay for all of those options. So, we started down this path because I think all of us that are on the phone today and on the line, I think we feel this massive disruption and change that's happening in our cities. People's habits are changing, and this is the way they're moving, and this is leading to a new era in mobility while also creating new opportunities for us all. Moovel is currently partnering with public transportation operators in cities around the world to create solutions for people and riders. And today, as you can see in this slide, we have over 5 million users on our platform. And in the first 6 months of this year, we processed over 13 million transactions on the platform on behalf of those users. Next slide, please. So we started to create products for transit, and when we did that, we were addressing the real concern that we knew riders had with the anxiety of purchasing their tickets, getting access to real-time data, which was essentially knowing when their bus or train would arrive at a stop or station. And then we grew that to provide A-to-B trip planning for those users who wanted to see that information on a variety of different modes. Today, as you can see outlined here, our product portfolio consists of several components, all of which are really designed to work together to provide our riders and users with an intuitive mobility interface in a mobile application, while also providing our transit and city partners with the specific tools they need to manage an increasingly complex relationship with a variety of different financial institutions, technology partners, and a growing list of mobility service providers. That looks like things like the number of ride-hailing services, car-sharing services, and bike-sharing services that are popping up in all of our cities. And we're doing this by creating a white label and branded application approach for our transit partners, which takes on the unique look, feel of their community and also their transit agency. So when you come to Portland, for example, where I am today, our apps feel like Portland. Or if you go to Stuttgart or Karlsruhe in Germany, they feel like those cities. And this allows for riders to have instant brand recognition and trust that their data and details will be kept in the strictest confidence, is kind of to Nitin's earlier point. So when we look at the specific products in the portfolio, our mobility app is the primary interface that users have with this platform, and the app allows for users to search, book, and pay for transit and various modes of transportation, all through one map-based interface, which is scalable enough to quickly add new modes as they become available. Some folks prefer to use our Rider Web, which is a website that can be used to visit, purchase, and manage accounts, as well as access tutorials about the platform. I think the unifying piece of our system is really our TOMS back office and operations management system. We created TOMS in close partnership with several partners, transit partners that is, with the understanding that they had unique reconciliation challenges and customer service needs. And as such, they needed a robust portal to really ensure that they had access to all the systems and data and analytics in real time to make more informed decisions and provide greater service to their riders. We also offer other tools to validate the products that we create, to close the circle between the purchase, issuance, and access of the various systems that we create. So Fare Connect and the Inspector app are obviously two of those tools. Inspector app is not our most creative name, and it's essentially what it sounds like. It's an app that we created for transit police and inspectors to ensure validity of fares, while Fare Connect is a little more specialized and allows for our platform to integrate and connect with a variety of third-party contactless platforms that have already been deployed to fleets and vehicles around the world. Fare Connect unlocks that hardware and allows for new ticketing solutions to be deployed, and this is the important part, as well as other contactless credit card processing and other cutting-edge payment solutions, essentially tying all these pieces together. And the last piece of our platform that I wanted to highlight for everybody today is what we call FareShare, which is our distribution platform that connects agencies with agencies and cities with universities and employers and community to allow them to deliver digital benefits, promotional codes, reduced fares to their riders. And in the future, we intend to use this platform to allow for subscription access and other tools that have been outlined in this paper. So by creating this scalable distribution platform, we've added one of the missing components that was needed to connect employees and their employers to a variety of different mobility options, with this new idea that if people are encouraged to try new modes, and in some cases subsidized to do so, they will likely connect with those modes, and that distribution can make more convenience and eventually even unlock some of these subscription models and other services that we've outlined in the white paper. Next slide, please. A newer addition to our platform is what we call OnDemand. So we have a lot of history in working closely with our transit partners. So in this case, we heard a consistent frustration and concern that with operating microtransit fleets and providing a more flexible and responsive system, our transit partners would be able to increase the user satisfaction of their riders and also reduce their overall operating costs during non-peak hours. So we realized that we could leverage a lot of our existing technology and expertise and work in a new way with our transit partners to increase their ridership and convenience. So we again brought a white label approach to our solutions, which allowed for our transit agencies and operators to again utilize their low brand, their existing fleets and drivers to operate an on-demand system. So our on-demand platform has three main pieces: the rider application, which allows users to hail a vehicle. For those of you who are familiar with hailing a Lyft or a taxi through an app, you'd be familiar with this process, as it simply allows for riders to hail an app and then connects them with that vehicle as it approaches them. The driver app connects operators with riders, obviously, and then provides turn-by-turn direction not only to those riders, but also to their end destination, essentially taking out all of the guesswork in the system. And then obviously all of this is connected through our operation dashboard, which allows for our transit partners to easily manage the fleet, and then allows them access to a variety of different administrative tools and reports, which ensures accurate forecasting, as well as incident handling and more. For those of you who are able, the system is actually fully operational in Stuttgart, Germany today, and we've launched that in partnership with our agency partner, SSB. And obviously, please, if you're close, come on by and check it out. I think you'll really enjoy the process of seeing all of that in action. Next slide, please. We've also created a B2C application which provides for search, book, and pay services as well. This has traditionally been called just the Moovel app, but it was actually the first app in the world that allowed users to search for transit trips, so providing all of the real-time data. They could book a car to go, and still can book a car to go. They can hail a My Taxi services, which is a ride-hailing taxi integrated service, and can even purchase long-distance Deutsche Bahn tickets as well. So in many senses, this was really one of the first instances of a mobility as a service platform, and continues to be really the innovative foundation of our company. And you can see the influence of that learning and that expertise in everything that we're doing today, and also in our future plans as well. Next slide, please. For the purpose of today, I wanted to take some time to highlight one of the most innovative things that we've been able to do recently that's brought together all of our learnings and really established. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself there. The Karlsruhe, the KVV app, as I was mentioning, was an app that we created in partnership with KVV, which is the local transport authority in Karlsruhe, and brought together for the first time all of city's unique mobility options in one app. So the application is based around Moovel's map-based A to B trip planner, and allows for users to get access to real-time transit data for all rail and bus, purchase transit tickets, access the local bike share system powered by NextBike, and even check out a car to go, all through one simple user interface. So all of these options can be booked and paid directly through the app, providing a complete user experience. The platform is designed to be scalable, and so in the fall of last year, at the IT Trends conference, in the spring of this year, we partnered with KVV to pilot our on-demand solution that I just described, and we deployed 10 roaming and branded Mercedes V-Class vans that could be booked through the publicly available app, but only if you were traveling between downtown and the conference venue. Essentially created a pop-up shuttle service for the trade fair. I personally had the opportunity to attend the conference and use the service, and it was interesting to see just how quickly users adopted the service. So much so that the first morning of the show, I had booked a ride for my colleague and myself, and when the van arrived, a woman standing next to me attempted to get in the van with us, and I quickly explained to her that I was booking a service, and she would need to download the app and hail the van through the platform, and she smiled, and as I got in the van and drove away, after 2 minutes, I noticed that we had pulled up again to our hotel, and I was surprised to see the same woman smiling as the door opened, and she stepped in, was greeted by the driver, and took her seat, and we began to laugh and joked the rest of the way to the conference about how crazy the world was. But I was obviously quite proud that the system had dynamically rerouted the fleet so quickly and increased the efficiency of the system and really improved all of our experience. So I think from my perspective, it was really one of those beautiful moments when technology had come together, and we'd taken the app and brought so many different dynamics into one place and connected people again, which is really what this is all about. I think it's a beautiful quote on the right-hand side of this slide, and we've also highlighted this in the white paper as well, just to see the partnership of the city, in this case through the mayor, highlighting just how intentional we're being by linking all of these various mobility services together, but always having the people and the users of the applications in mind as we consider the impact to their lives, to their commuting choices as well. We've also highlighted on the left-hand side of this slide, and also in the white paper, specifically how the application is designed to obviously not only integrate all of the real-time data components increasingly available in our system, but also to take all of the other real-time data that's being generated by our partner systems. So knowing where floating bike share is available, where floating car share is available as well, taking all of that data, making it easily digestible and accessible, visually presented in the application is really one of the keys to increasing success. Next slide, please. So to partnering, we have also at Moovel created a practical guide that is specifically written for transit agencies and cities to prepare them for the changes that are coming, and in many cases are already here, obviously. This guide is currently available on our website, and again, I'd invite all of you that are interested to visit and download or to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to provide it. The highlights that are called out in this practical guide are really about defining agency goals, because I think, as we know, not all of our cities are exactly the same, and agencies need to know their strengths and weaknesses to be able to deploy a solution that is scalable and works for them. We also discuss practical items like expected adoption and usage, as well as policy and terms that need to be considered when deploying these solutions. The most important note, in my opinion, though, from this slide is highlighting the opportunity transit agencies and cities have to engage with and put their riders first. I think Nitin called this out a few moments ago, but really customers, I think, well, and customers can be a bit of an unfriendly word, but what really is happening is I think the mobility revolution is indicating that people have an increasing number of options each day for how they move from A to B. And as such, the services need to recognize that people will often pick the option that is friendliest, cleanest, most accessible, and provides what they feel is the best service. So it's our mission here at Moovel to help people pick public transit, as it is the most efficient way to move the highest number of people each day. And MaaS, in our opinion, offers us an opportunity to connect those people with those services in an increasingly frictionless way. So reducing the friction and access to public transit is obviously one of our primary goals. And so lastly, I think in the end, to summarize, I would love it if people walked away from this knowing that people need to move every day, obviously, and in most cases that's at least twice a day activity. So this is increasingly less of a technical challenge and more of a business and operational one. So I'd invite you all to join us in this conversation and focus on people using these services, and let's bring the future forward faster. And now I'll pass it back to the team to answer some questions.
Thanks very much there, Tony. Now, on that note from Tony, we've come to the end of the presentation. We now have 10 minutes or so to take some questions. If we're unable to take your questions today, we'll be in touch with you shortly afterwards to provide you with a response and some more information. Firstly, we've got a question coming on the impact that MaaS will have on consumers, especially city dwellers. Will it mean no more private cars or people driving to work, etc.? Nitin, maybe you could field this one.
Sure, Winter. Right, so as a transformative new approach in the urban mobility space, MaaS has the potential to disrupt existing elements of transport, and yeah, I mean, it will indeed have a significant level of impact, not just on consumers, but also across a number of transport service verticals or service areas, such as ticketing, payment, journey planning, customer management, and operations. So, but going back to the question, from a consumer's point of view, this is essentially changing behavior by altering the transport experience. Now, by reducing journey times and congestion, drivers will reap the benefits of a large-scale MaaS deployment. But MaaS does not seek to replace the use of private cars in every situation, and nor should it seek to. In fact, most MaaS schemes involve an option to hire a car when a MaaS integrated public transport service is not available or it's not suitable. So this will likely mean that cars that are used for trips outside urban areas where locations are poorly served by existing forms of public transport, drivers using cars will also continue to use hire cars. So they'll be more likely to use hire cars, which tend to be newer, cleaner, and in better condition than older privately owned vehicles.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Nitin. Now we've got another question here on subscription being the future of MaaS business models? Is that going to be the case? Tony, this one?
Yeah, happy to. Subscriptions, yes. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I think that this is increasingly less of a technical question and more of a business and operational one. I think what I guess I mean by that in answering the question that way is that subscription, I think, is the most convenient solution for the end user or for the people that will utilize the system. And so from a convenience perspective, I think that we are moving more and more in that way, and we do think that subscription will be a foundational element of the future. I think that said, I think obviously that is kind of maybe the culminating or the most difficult thing to put together, because really we're talking about a variety of different financial back office systems that need to be integrated, as well as operational components. So while I think that is obviously the goal of the system, I do think it will be a little bit of time before we get there. But as we increasingly focus on the riders and the people that are utilizing these platforms, I think we'll find that that consolidating not only the experience of accessing these vehicles, but also how they pay for them, will be one of the primary places that we need to focus and innovate.
No, I think that sums it up beautifully, Tony. And another question, I think probably for you, is Moovel working with a number of stakeholders to enable MaaS, and when do you expect a full service rollout in the US?
Yeah, we obviously are. So, as far as those integration components and those partnerships are concerned, we are obviously actively engaging with all of the various car ride-hailing, bike-sharing companies to bring them into the system and to integrate their services into our platform. We are actively engaged and have a bit of a new announcement to make with regards to a project we're working on in Los Angeles, which, as far as the U.S. is concerned, will be the first time that we bring many of these components to bear between multimodal trip planning for transit, integrating bike share, and also deploying our on-demand and micro-transit services in downtown Los Angeles. So that's coming later this year, probably, excuse me, not probably, specifically in the September-October timeframe. So we're excited to announce that and look forward to launching that soon.
Great. Now, I think we've got time for one more question, and I think, Nitin, maybe you could take this one.
Yes.
Does MaaS hold an opportunity for insurance providers?
Okay. Yes, I think so. Yeah. Well, the adoption of MaaS services indeed creates a challenge specific to the insurance industry. I mean, at present, if you take the motor insurance business model, it has remained unchanged for a long period, and possibly a full MaaS implementation threatens to change or uproot this established norm. So I'm sure you would agree with me in saying that it is quite likely that insurance will not be sold to the individual,
yeah,
but to a MaaS vendor or the transport operator, and maybe most likely on an as a service basis.
No, I think you're absolutely right there, Nitin.
Yeah.
And thanks very much for that. And that now brings us to the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. And before we finish, please follow us on Twitter and reach out for any additional questions or information. Once again, the full white paper is available to download from Moovel's homepage, as well as from Juniper's website. So thank you and have a good day. Goodbye.